Tonight on the Mike Tomlin Show, Coach addresses Antonio Brown's actions on the sideline from last week's game. Also, what's a Ben Roethlisberger test? Rookie wideout James Washington explains. And who owns over 1,200 pairs of sneakers? Well, it's not me, but you'll find out who later in the show. All of that and much more. The Mike Tomlin Show starts right now.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of the Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. Last week, Heinz Field was treated to an incredible quarterback duel. The grizzled veteran who threw for 450 yards for the 5th time in his career, the most by any quarterback ever, squaring off against the young gunslinger who threw for more touchdowns than he did incompletions. Unfortunately, though, the historic performance by Ben Roethlisberger, topped off with an epic leap into the end zone, was for naught. Like plugging one leaking hole only to sprout another, the Steelers' defensive backfield couldn't contain the Chiefs' electric offense. Bob Papiani is with Coach now to talk about how a slow start in the first quarter affected the Steelers' entire game.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. It's on to week number 3, and that would be Tampa. But before we do that, head coach Mike Tomlin is here, and in the NFL, you're going to have days like this. Although when I look at this game, looking back, there are a lot of things that happened later that were good things. In the meantime, you guys started badly, 21-zip right off the bat. What was the problem there at the beginning, Mike?
You know, we started slow, and really we started slow in all 3 phases. It took us a couple of drives to gain some traction offensively. We lost the field position battle on special teams significantly. You know, we worked our tails off to minimize 10's inclusion in the special teams game, and Thomas got us on the first punt of the game as we directional the ball away from their intended return man. And then we didn't stand up defensively in some gotta-have-it moments. We got placed in the short field and didn't stand up. We had a 3rd down and goal, a makeable play. We missed a tackle. Those are significant missed tackles. Those are 4-point plays. We gained a little traction as the game wore on, but not enough to secure victory. The bottom line is we can't start the way we started in that football game.
You mentioned missed tackles and big chunk plays. They seem to be recurring. Is that a point of emphasis this week, and what do you do to change it?
You know, it wasn't in week 1. It was in week 2. So we got to acknowledge that and work our tails off. And we're searching for consistency really in all areas of our football team. I think that's what all of us are searching for this time of year. We're playing a team that produces big chunks over the first couple of games of the season. So we got to do a great job of keeping an umbrella on it, better than we did in week 2. Hopefully the return of Joe Haden is significant in that regard, but we got to play better largely.
One of the things that come with being an outstanding player like Antonio Brown is he gets double teamed, sometimes even more than that. As a result, other guys are open, and I think JuJu and Jesse James certainly benefited by that. But Antonio Brown seemed to be a little edgy on the sidelines. Was there anything to that, or is it just a frustration point of not getting the ball maybe as much as he wants?
Man, he likes to win more than anything. I don't know that it was about targets is more than anything. It's about us being in position to control games. You know, it's not a comfortable position being down in the game for any of us. And sometimes that frustration is expressed inappropriately by him and by others. It's opportunities to grow, but more than anything, we learn how we smile or stand up in the face of adversity throughout the course of this journey. There's going to be more of that, unfortunately. Hopefully none of it that results in the outcome of a game. We're going to be down. We're going to have things not going our way. That's just the nature of this thing. How we respond to it oftentimes individually and collectively will define us, and will define us in game in terms of how we're able to navigate those waters.
September football normally doesn't carry a must win or at least an urgent win, but in this case, after the start you had, how important is this week 3 game?
Man, it's very important. It's important on a lot of levels. You know, it's Monday Night Football, and the attention that comes with that, the ability to stand up and deliver winning performance, I think is big in terms of team development over the long haul. If you're growing in the right ways, it's going to include primetime television, particularly down the stretch. But more than anything, man, we just got to go in the stadium and get a win. We're 3 games in. We hadn't done that yet. But all of these opportunities are big. I don't want to pretend like now I got a certain level of urgency. I got a certain level of urgency all the time. We only get 16 regular season opportunities. Opportunities for runs and things of that nature in our sport aren't similar as they are in other sports. So you know, there's a lot of reasons to have your hair stand on end as you prepare for this one.
Mike Tomlin, when we come back, we'll talk about Tampa Bay and their quarterback, who happens to be Conor McGregor. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Who was that in the microphone, Missy? You saw that, didn't you?
I sure did, Bob, and that wardrobe choice may be the only thing more impressive than his win against the Eagles last week. So what do you do with your first career touchdown football? You put in a trophy case, right? Well, for James Washington, not so much.
Oh, it's actually going to go right by my TV in my living room, so it'll never move.
The Steelers' official mobile app brings your game day experience to a whole new level. The app features a new game center full of stats, drive charts, and video highlights. Following the game, watch live press conferences and video interviews. Download the Steelers' official mobile app for free today.
Yeah, these ladies know their football probably better than most men, and that's what the most impressive thing is. They love their Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's just so awesome to have them. And the women following that we have is just tremendous here, so it'll be awesome to see them tonight.
I just want to be in their heads and talk about their life and what that's like, and unbelievable that they're going to take time during the season to come and talk to us. That's surreal.
With 11 touchdowns between the Steelers and the Chiefs last Sunday, it's understandable that the significance of rookie wide receiver James Washington's first career touchdown could have got lost in the fray. This year's second-round draft pick had a strong preseason and shined in a breakout performance against the Green Bay Packers. Washington is a humble, blue-collar guy, a farmer, a hunter, and also someone who happens to be a wide receiver. He's making the most of his targets and leaning on a few veterans to help make his rookie season as impactful as he can.
24 seconds, Ben empty, 3rd and 10 at the 14 of the Chiefs. He runs, he throws the pass, and it's caught for a touchdown, and I don't see any markers. And that is his first of his career for rookie James Washington out of Oklahoma State, the second-round pick. He beat Steven Nelson.
Hey, is that James Washington's first touchdown in the National Football League?
It certainly is.
Wow, congratulations, James.
All right, James, 11 snaps in Cleveland, you weren't targeted at all. Then week 2 against Kansas City, 5 targets, 1 for a touchdown. What changed from week 1 to week 2?
I would just say my preparation, coming off that injury, it kind of, I guess, set me back, and everyone really didn't know if I would play. But, this past week, it felt great. The training staff did an excellent job getting me back ready. And, I got to just be with Ben a little longer and just kind of build his trust coming in this game.
JuJu did not have a reception until his second game last year. He's a second-round draft pick. You guys have a lot of similarities. So do you lean on a guy like him to maybe get you through your rookie season and maybe what to expect or what can happen?
I do a lot, me and JuJu, we talk all the time. He's kind of like that bigger, younger brother, since I'm older than him, but, he gives me a lot of advice, and he's a fun guy to be around.
What's something that he's taught you so far?
Just got to roll with the punches. I mean, it's not going to be a perfect game every time, but if you just keep plugging and just keep fighting, good things will happen. Your
first catch is a touchdown. Did you keep the ball?
I did. I actually went to the sideline and I threw it to Justin Hunter, and I told him, just keep that for me. So.
What are you going to do with it?
It's actually going to go right by my TV in my living room, so it'll never move.
James, if that's who you're speaking of, is getting it. He's learning, and when I test him out there on the field, he gets it and he understands it. So now it's just translating that to on the field type stuff.
Ben was asked last week just about the nuances of the offense and for a guy like you to learn it. He was talking about the hand signals, no huddle, and said that he tests you a lot out on the field. What is a Ben Roethlisberger test?
You know, he'll kind of flip the formation on me and want me to know what X does, or want me to know what F and what Y does, and those are like his tests. So, I mean, when he throws me the ball, he'll put it all over the place, you know, to test my athletic ability. But, you know, I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
Do you like those?
I do.
The tests?
I do. It shows me that I'm capable of doing things, and it shows him that I'm capable of making these plays for him.
I had a chance to catch up with Coach Gundy during OTAs and minicamp, and he told us a story one night that he was talking to Mason on the phone. You guys were in a hotel room together. Mason was studying the offense, and you were talking about coyote hunting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. One of my buddies had actually called me that night, and Mason was like, "Are you going to study tonight?" And I was like, "Well, I studied earlier." And so my buddy was calling me talking about a hunt that's later on, and like, I want to say it's like January or something. And he's like, "Are you going to be able to be here?" Probably not. I hope we go to the playoffs, you know, keep going. But I do remember that story.
There's plenty more coming up on the Mike Tomlin Show. Up next, the Steelers make the trip to Tampa Bay for Monday Night Football to face off with the red-hot Ryan Fitzpatrick. We'll get a preview of the matchup. Don't go anywhere.
Heinz Field, baby, let's go.
This fall, we're hosting a few get-togethers at Heinz Field.
Touchdown, Antonio Brown. How did he do that? Here's a big rush, and that is Cam Hayward with yet another.
Come on by and join 68,000 of your closest friends.
Touchdown, JuJu Smith-Schuster. The Steelers win the football game.
And what a game.
For ticket information, visit Steelers.com. The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
When looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you don't need to look much further than quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, or should I say Ryan Fitzmagic. You've seen Fitzpatrick before, though, just with a few other teams. This 36-year-old journeyman quarterback is playing on his 7th team in 14 seasons. Despite starter Jameis Winston being suspended for 3 games, the backup Fitzpatrick has the Bucs offense off to an incredibly hot start. The Kansas City Chiefs were a team that could execute chunk plays, as Coach Tomlin likes to call them. Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been making a living off of chunk plays through the first 2 weeks. Let's head back over to Bob and Coach to preview Monday Night Football.
All right, Missy, thanks. Trip to Tampa Bay. And this is a team at the beginning of the season. Everybody thought, okay, Jameis Winston, but he's been suspended. And his understudy is a man who seems to be having a lot of fun doing what he's doing. Ryan Fitzpatrick leads the NFL in passer rating. Is that surprising to you?
Not at all. I think understudy might be a misnomer when it comes to Fitz. And this guy's been around a long time. He's started a bunch of games. We're familiar with him. We've seen him in Cincinnati. We've seen him in Buffalo. You know, understudy just doesn't seem to eloquently describe him and what he's capable of. He's a veteran guy. He's a smart guy. He's Ivy League, Harvard educated. It shows up in his play. He's a quick decision maker. We got a hands full.
He seems to be a guy who gets streaky when he's on his game, and it led to a big contract in Buffalo once, but then when he got there, it didn't work out so much. Is he streaky? And how do you stop that streak that he's on?
I think that anybody that started for stretches have had good stretches. I think he could probably be characterized in that way. I just think about his high floor. I think that, you know, he's consistently solid, you know, and I think that speaks to the number of jobs that he's had and how he's been able to stay in this game the length of time that he's been and have starting opportunities in multiple cities. You know, Tampa knew that Winston was facing a suspension. I think that they were comfortable with him and being able to start these blocks of games, and his production thus far has proven that their comfort was correct.
Their offense is loaded with very good receivers, running backs, a young tight end. How do you stop it all, and what do you have to do first and foremost to stop that offense?
The first thing you got to do is minimize the big plays. They've thrived on the big play through the first 2 games. Guys like Deshaun Jackson has made a career of taking the top off of coverages and making big plays. Young, talented tight end that they have in O.J. Howard out of Alabama is big play capable, a vertical threat guy, a guy that gets down the field. Michael Evans, opposite of Deshaun, is a number 1. Gets down the field and produces big plays, but does it differently than Deshaun. Deshaun is a speedy guy. Mike can run, but he's more of a big power player. kind of in the mold of a Julio Jones type. So they have some legitimate weapons, ones that you got to work to minimize.
And they beat the defending champs this past week. That has to do a lot for their confidence, I would imagine, defensively too. They have guys up front who can stuff the run and do a lot of good things in that. How do you attack their defense? Is it run first? I know that's the philosophy you guys like to employ, or are there openings down the field?
You know, they've done a nice job of adding to their defense, and let's start up front. You know, back in the offseason with Pierre-Paul. Here's a guy that's a dominant edge player. He's good versus the run and the pass on the edge. And then they employ him some on the inside in some passing situations. So we all got to be prepared to minimize his impact on the game. At the second level, they have speedy linebackers. Quan Alexander, Levante David are all situations linebackers, really speedy guys, sideline to sideline type players. Those skills are highlighted in the schemes that they employ. And then in the secondary, they got a nice mix of some new guys that are supplementing for some guys that have played. Brent Grimes is a guy who's played a lot of corner in this league, has been down here in recent weeks. But they've got nice quality guys like Carlton Davis, a rookie, who's playing a lot for them and making some quality plays.
Tampa Bay is next up. We'll continue the conversation when we come back to Mike Tomlin. With all the flooding that's gone down, your hometown was also victimized by some of what we saw with Hurricane Florence, and we'll talk about that and more when we continue with Mike. Missy, back to you.
That's right, Bob. This week, the NFL Foundation contributed $1 million to Hurricane Florence relief efforts, and you can donate $10 to the American Red Cross by texting Florence to the number below. Right after the break, learn how Joe Haden turned his passion for shoes into a business opportunity.
Love sneakers, love clothes, you know what I'm saying? And so I went into business with a couple of my boys.
The league considers rule changes annually. We want to keep the game competitively fair, and we just want to make the game as safe as we can make it. Recently, we expanded the horse collar tackle rule to not only include inside the collar, but outside the collar. Guys were being injured, so we expanded that rule. You talk to the players about why the rule is being changed, but then you also talk to your coaches about how it might change our instruction. You know, the game is evolving, and it's evolving for the better.
All week long, they heard about that great Tampa Bay defense. And I think they were kind of saying, what are we, chopped liver?
You know, all the talk back and forth, especially when it's authored by a guy like Warren Sapp.
I thought there was going to be a little extracurricular activity.
The Steelers, I think, decided to bring a black and gold hurricane into the Tampa region, and it was called defense.
Their defense rose to the occasion. It was a very, very physical football game.
Joey Porter and company just totally dominated that side of the line of scrimmage.
And what I thought was great about that game was the Steelers beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at their own game.
They controlled what they could, and that's the fact that they won the division based on this improbable win in Tampa.
You talk about setting a tone, well, that's what you've just done.
Since he was out with an injury, all cornerback Joe Haden could do last week during the loss to the Chiefs was stand and watch from the sideline in street clothes and sneakers. Hayden, of course, though, is wearing team-issued apparel, so he couldn't show off one of his cherished 1,200 pairs of sneakers. Yes, you heard me right, 1,200 pairs of sneakers. Hayden is so obsessed with footwear that he opened his own store, the Restock in Cleveland, when he was still with the Browns. And earlier this summer, he gave us a tour. Check it out.
Started when I was really, really young. I was probably 4th grade, 5th grade. I used to always just love Michael Jordan. He was my favorite player when I was a kid. And all the kids in school, you know, if you were the kid that came in with the new Jordans, then that was the thing. Just started collecting ever since then. I would wait in line, you know, for the release days, be out there early in the morning, just waiting for them. Love sneakers, love clothes, you know what I'm saying? So I just was like, you know, if that's something I want to do, I think we can make it happen. So I went into business with a couple of my boys. Having people that really love shoes and love the the culture as much as you do. That's really big. You have to be in the new, knowing what shoes are going to be hot, because now it's so many different colorways, so many different shoes coming out that you don't know which one's going to resell, which shoe's going to be that everybody loves. So just being able to get the exclusive hot releases, the off-whites, things like that, just knowing which ones hit Babe, Supreme. Definitely now having a team that's able to run it and they have the same vision I do. When I come here and I see stuff, I'm like, man, like I don't even know. It's just a surprise to me when I come in the store, seeing the good stuff that we have in there. It makes me happy to come in the spot and be like, yo, I really want to shop here. They have good stuff. They have stuff I would be looking to get even if this wasn't my spot. Before I ended up leaving here, before I ended up leaving Cleveland, I had about 1,200 pair of shoes. Now I would say I ended up downsizing. I probably got about 600 to 800 pair of shoes now. Mostly tennis shoes. There's a lot of dress shoes, but definitely since I got sponsored by Jordan, it kind of made it a whole lot easier. Those dudes, they send the shipments, they send everything about a month before their shoes come out, so you don't even have to order it anymore. So that thing right there just was another level. That was a very, very proud moment in my life. I was always wanted to be a Jordan guy. Like we said, Jordan was the one reason why I started collecting shoes, and then being able to not have to wait in line for them anymore is big. I love it, it's a passion. This is my 3rd year being open. It's going pretty good right now, and then we're thinking about trying to expand. Get with your boy Joe Haden in the restock, get to this one in Cleveland, might have one coming soon in Pittsburgh.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the Mike Tomlin Show presented by 84 Lumber. But as always, before we say goodnight, let's get some final thoughts from the head coach.
All right, Missy, thanks. As you said before, relief help. It's very much needed for what we saw down in the Carolinas, Virginia. All the coastline over there hit hard by Hurricane Florence, not so much from a wind point of view, but also the rain and the flooding. And this hits home for you, Mike. You're from Newport News, Virginia. Have you talked to people there? And I imagine their needs are extreme at this point.
Yeah, I've made a few calls, and the needs are many. You know, being from that part of the country, you're highly sensitive to how hurricanes impact those communities, and particularly this time of year. I experienced it some growing up. I appreciate everyone being supportive of that community in those areas, the Carolinas, the Eastern Seaboard, and I encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, that's when it happens, man. It is catastrophic, and we see sometimes it goes on and on with the flooding, and hopefully everybody's safe down there, and your help is necessary. Missy gave you the number before. Please help, do as much as you can to help people, because who knows, one day you may be in that same position. Anyway, Mike, on that note, have a good week. Look forward to that game in Tampa on Monday night.
Thank you.
All right, that's the Mike Tomlin Show for this week. For head coach Mike Tomlin and Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Have a good week. Steelers and Tampa on Monday Night Football. We'll talk about what happens there next week right here on the Mike Tomlin Show presented by 84 Lumber. Have a good weekend.